Welcome back to Fall Day 28 of the Stardew Valley Min-Max and 100% Perfection Guide. Today it's the last day of fall, and we will be continuing our organization of the farm and continuing to clean up the farm in preparation for winter and year 2. We will also start doing some decorating, and I'll talk a bit about the farm layout going forward and for year 2. And I'll start to talk a little bit about winter too. We started off today with the Queen of Sauce recipe, and we also received the recipe for ice cream in the mail from Jody since we reached 7 hearts with her. After smelting ores and grabbing our horse, we're going to harvest any remaining crops we have and we'll finally clean up this starter field of ours. It is a bit sad to see it go, but we won't need it for winter or year 2 and beyond. Since these crops here are done for the fall, we're gonna destroy them, get them out of the way, so we can finish up our storage setup right here. I'm gonna place the chests just in a nice row like that because I don't think we'll ever need more than this. It's a setup I like, and what I'll do is all these chests will be for crops. The green is for spring, yellow for summer, orange for fall, and the blue is for winter. And since winter doesn't have a lot of crops, we'll also put like mushrooms and desert crops in there and stuff. And then I'll also have those 2 chests on the left. I'll probably color them pink and use them for flowers because there are a lot of flowers and a lot of varieties of flowers, so we'll need quite a bit of space for those. And along with all of the season crops, we'll also put the forageables. So that does include the mushrooms and stuff. I kind of fit it all into one category. So right here, I'm just starting to do the organizing, putting everything in the chest it belongs. Again, organizing mainly by season. Of course, there are the exceptions like corn and grapes, which belong to multiple seasons. So we'll just put them where they fit. It doesn't really matter too much as long as in your game you have a storage system that works for you. That's what matters. Even if you don't have anything organized, that's okay as long as you're able to access everything you want to quickly. And again, in a min-max run, you can spend as much time as you want in the inventory and storage screens since it does freeze the in-game time. As I continue to organize all of our items in the storage, let's take a quick look about our layout around here. So pretty much everything near the house is going to stay as it is from now on, I believe. The shed, eventually we're going to move our crystallariums inside of that shed because we'll have a lot more of those. So where the crystallariums are, we'll put some other things there, maybe like a wood chipper or something, some other sort of machinery. And the greenhouse will stay right there. It's pretty close to our house, which is good. All of our chests are right outside of our house, which is very good. And those furnaces will probably all stay there. We want them to be easy to access since we'll always have ores to smelt. Now, I went inside the greenhouse really quick. Doesn't look like there's anything ready in there. Those cranberries had one last harvest, so I grabbed those. We'll tend to the bone mill and our animal product machines. And now that we've pretty much got all of the big things in place, our furnaces, shed, greenhouse, I'm pretty confident at this point this is where I want all of these to be for the rest of the game. We're going to start doing just a little bit of decorating, and by that I mean we're just going to place some paths down. This does take some time away from our min-maxing, of course, but it doesn't take all that long. We should be able to place a good amount of paths down and whatnot in today's time, as well as get a bunch of other farm chores done and whatnot. But anyways, I do like laying the paths down just because it does look nice, but also it gives me a sense of where I want to put everything. They're essentially like a frame of where I will be walking around on the farm, and everything else around it will be crops, machines, buildings, and whatnot. Another thing you could argue is that the paths are a waste of stone, but again, the stone one is probably the cheapest path, definitely a lot cheaper than wood or the refined quartz or any of the other paths, so at the very least I'm choosing a cheap path that I still think looks very nice. And we probably wouldn't even use that stone for anything anyways, because we can get our staircases from jades from the desert trader. We'll continue placing some more paths down later, but I do want to tend to some other things I want to get done, including picking up the sprinklers there and the bee houses. We don't need those anymore. And now we're gonna chop down our fruit trees. Unfortunately, it is a little bit sad to see them go, but we will have new fruit trees of each type grown in the greenhouse very soon. And the trees out here on the farm will only grow fruit in the fall, so it's really not worth it to keep them around. Next, we're heading down to the secret woods to gather the hardwood from the stumps here. Then we'll be heading back to the farm, and we probably won't be going into town or anything today. There's not really anything we need to do other than giving gifts, but we're going to skip over that today because today is best spent preparing for winter and setting up our farm. If we do have time at the end of the day, we'll probably check on some of our trees at the tree farms we have, because we do want to keep getting a lot of wood in order to keep getting more kegs. And all of that hardwood might come in handy a little bit later if we get a wood chipper, start turning that hardwood into more wood. But now that we're back at the farm, we're gonna continue organizing everything and probably finish all that off, get all the chests straightened out and having the items that they should have. And a bit later in the day, when we continue placing those paths, I'll also go over what I plan for the crop layout to be come year 2. I'll go over a tool I use, the Stardew Valley Planner, and kind of show what I designed for my layout to be, or at least what I planned for it to be back when I had recorded this gameplay. Maybe if I can figure out a better layout, I will end up changing it, but this layout that I will be showing a bit later in the video is what I will be basing on the paths off of and whatnot, so I'll still show that and then we'll see if we want to change it later. But for now, I'm going to finish up organizing everything here. I'm going to grab a few things, including the 10 iridium bars. We will be warping to the desert, and since I do want to continue to get all of the crafting recipes for that perfection goal, I will be buying the desert warp totem crafting recipe. Of course, we still will be continuing to buy our desert warp totems with Omni Geodes, since it's a lot cheaper than crafting them. Crafting them actually costs iridium ore and a coconut and 2 hardwood, which is rather expensive as opposed to 3 Omni Geodes. And since it is Staircase Sunday, we will pick up as many staircases as we can for our jades, and that's probably it we need here. So we'll go ahead and forge the desert. We'll also dig up some artifact spots that we find, and then we can go ahead and warp back to our farm. And now that we're back at the farm, we're gonna put our stuff away that we just got in our newly organized storage system. And after I manage my storage and get some ores smelting, we will craft a whole bunch more of the stone walkway floors and continue to place them around our farm. And as I start placing the paths, I'll start talking about what my plan is for the future layout of the farm. To begin, as I mentioned earlier, all of the buildings by our house are in a pretty good position. We have the stable with the horse right by the exit to town, so we can get around very quickly. We have the furnaces right outside too, and near the chests, so smelting is quick and easy. And of course, we want the chests to be right outside the house, along with important machinery that we will be accessing frequently, along with the shed and greenhouse, of course, which we will check very often. And then the farm animals are a bit more towards the left since they aren't the biggest priority. Same with the fish ponds at the bottom of the farm. And then the last but most important part of the farm would be the actual crop fields, which of course will take up the majority of space. But let's real quick take a look at the planner that I used in order to come up with the layout I am going to be planning for. So here is the farm layout I came up with around a year ago that we are currently setting up paths for. There are around 5 Junimo huts worth of crop space, and the sprinklers are placed with the use of pressure nozzles in mind. The buildings are also in the locations we already have ours in, and I also have some space for some sheds above the left crop fields in case we need any shed space. Obviously, this crop layout is not the best profit-wise, but I do think when everything is placed it will look nice, and it also leaves a lot of room for decorating too. Let's get back to the gameplay, and pretty much what we are gonna do for the rest of the day is tend to the miscellaneous farm chores, and after that check up on our tree farms. I'm gonna place the remaining paths I have, and we'll finish the path placing with that. Of course, when winter comes, we'll continue to place more paths and do some more decorating, but since a lot of the places where our paths will be placed eventually are currently obstructed with crops, it will be better to just hold off until winter. What is nice, at least, is we have some paths down near our house, which will be what we see most often anyway. Now that I have talked about the layout for our farm for year 2, let's start talking about what crops we will be planting. The best option would be ancient fruit, of course, since it grows during spring, summer, and fall. It sells for a bit less than star fruit, but since it grows during 3 seasons, we should end up with a higher total profit for the 3 seasons with ancient fruit as opposed to something like strawberries in spring, star fruit in summer, and pumpkins or cranberries in fall. Further, ancient fruit is a crop that grows back, so we would not have to replant it like we would for star fruit. Having a full field of ancient fruit would be best for profit, but unfortunately, we most likely won't be able to acquire enough ancient fruit seeds to cover our entire farm. So we have to start thinking about what crops we want to plant in addition to the ancient fruit. We could do like I mentioned with strawberries in spring and starfruit in summer, but what I think might actually be better is coffee beans. Coffee beans will regrow every other day and grow in spring and summer, and we can rely on the Junimos to harvest them for us, of course. Coffee beans are most profitable when turned into coffee, so we could use our keg setup to turn a whole bunch of coffee beans into coffee quickly, as by the time we are finished sticking our last beans into the keg, the first keg will likely be finished, so we can just keep repeating the cycle efficiently. Since coffee does not grow in fall, we would probably plant some cranberries in place since they are a profitable crop that grows back. And we may even try to incorporate some smaller fields of other types of crops as well, in case we need any for crafting, cooking, or gifting. And of course, we don't really even need to plant starfruit on the main field, since we will have it growing on the Ginger Island farm very frequently. The next day is going to be day 1 of winter, when we will repair the boat so that on winter day 2, we can finally travel to Ginger Island. That day should be filled with lots of fun stuff, including a volcano run so we can finally combine our rings, and of course collecting some golden walnuts and clearing the debris on the farm so we can get that set up soon. But anyways, all that's going to happen the next few days. What we do need to do now is finish up today, the last day of fall. And something I did that I should mention is placing the heaters in the coop and the barn so that the animals can get some extra points of friendship during the winter. Along with that, we're just tending to all of the other usual farm chores, attending to our machinery, even the crab pots. Then we'll skip ahead in time and we're going to start heading off up by the quarry to check on our tree farm, see if there are any trees that could get cut down. And we'll also check outside the carpenter shop and up by the spa and railroad to see if there are any more trees to cut down. It looks like we are first met with a cutscene. This is Maru's 6-heart cutscene, and it's activated when entering the mountain on a sunny day between 9 p.m. and 11:40 p.m. We will be met with a dialogue option when she asks us to look through her telescope and asks what we see. We want to say a beautiful planet, so we get 30 points of friendship with Maru, And we don't want to say a cold, dark abyss because we will lose 30 points of friendship with Maru. We're now finishing up this cutscene by looking up at the night sky and all of the stars. And we're gonna now prepare for one of the best cutscenes in Stardew Valley, and that is of course the Linus 4-heart cutscene. So we finally got 4 hearts with him, and this cutscene can be activated when entering the mountain area by his tent between 8 p.m. and 12 a.m. on a day that it's not raining. Why is this one of the best cutscenes? Just give it a listen once we go inside his tent and you tell me. And of course the answer is because we get the wild bait recipe, of course. This bait will give us a small chance at catching 2 fish at once, but I'm not sure how handy these will come in for us since we won't be doing too much fishing anymore. Meanwhile, we're at the quarry now, but there aren't any trees ready, so we're gonna warp on over to the cave and check around the other areas if there are any trees for us to cut down. After cutting down the trees, if there's any time left, we'll try to head back to the farm to see if there's anything else we can do there before we pass out. And this will bring us to the end of this day and the end of this video. As I mentioned earlier, we will have winter and Ginger Island coming up, so if you are looking forward to all of that, please consider subscribing so you can be sure to see the videos when they come out. I'm also in progress working on the fall recap video, so hopefully I can get that done and release it in a week. Of course, feel free to leave any comments and perhaps let me know if you have any other ideas for farm layouts or crop choices for year 2. I would love to hear what everyone has to say and their opinions on farm layouts and crop choices. As always, thank you for watching and goodbye.